TJ Hushmanzada. What's up? Four-man fronts on my channel this week. You know the crew. That's Ryan G. Hensley, the coach, and Jessie Naylor. I didn't anticipate that I would start off this show talking about one of my favorite all-time players, not necessarily because of how he played, although he was good, but because of his name, TJ Hushmanzada. I can spell it. I'm glad that he's back in our collective consciousness because he's connected to Brandon Ayuk. He's his personal wide receiver coach, and sometimes he goes on TV. Went on TV recently and said that Brock Purdy is overpaid, that he would have paid him no more than $47 million a year, that when the team needed him to carry him last year, he's 1-6 against playoff teams. Do you agree with Mr. Hushmanzada, and do you think that maybe he's speaking for others on the team?
Can you prove that you can spell it?
Hushmanzadeh. Hushmanzada.
I don't even know if you're right.
Confirm that he's right or wrong. Yeah,
I was right.
Who's going to confirm if he's right
There's
or wrong?
a D in
I'm
there.
Not. As far as is the Hushmanzada thing, I find it interesting. First thing I thought was you're full of it, because if that's the expectation, then almost no quarterbacks live up to that expectation. No quarterback, how many guys are not winning Super Bowls that are getting paid lots of money? So I guess everybody pretty much falls short of the standard that you're setting. And then after I thought about it a little bit, I'm like, this is even more strange because this is Ayuk's personal trainer. So is this the way that Ayuk feels? I don't know. I guess it's tough because Hushmanzada is a personality on TV as well. So I don't know that that's necessarily a Brandon Ayuk opinion. Although if it's not a Brandon Ayuk opinion, then he probably should pick up the phone pretty quickly and let Brock Purdy know that it is not his opinion. As far as the contract goes, listen, signing Brock Purdy long-term was not number one favorite thing that they could have done. But once the contract came out, I'm totally fine with the way that it's structured. I'm fine with the money. I don't think that it's structured in a way that the 49ers have to absolutely rely on Brock Purdy and they can't put a team around him. The 49ers can still put a lot of talented players around Brock Purdy. They can still win with him on this contract. And this contract to me doesn't scream, we're riding your coattails, you better be the guy. This contract screams, be even keel, don't make a ton of mistakes. If we put the right team around you, we can win a Super Bowl. And that's the way that I see it. I think that there's a lot of ways that Brock Purdy can live up to the expectations of this contract that don't include necessarily winning a Super Bowl.
Were you gonna go, Ryan?
No, go ahead.
Okay. For me, he just is kind of showing his age. And one of the biggest things about older players who talk about way back when or what expectations are supposed to be, they never look at when they played, and really, if you want to look at a quarterback who got a shit ton of money and who was not available for long stretches of his career, it would be the quarterback that he had, Carson Palmer. All right, who had multiple injuries throughout his career while getting paid big money, what would be the equivalent of big money today. I just think that this is revisionist history, a little bit of him kind of like building his own narrative in his own head about what he thinks Brock should be. Like Jessie said, nobody can live up to his standard of, you're not worth your money if you don't win a Super Bowl. I mean, then Carson Palmer, I think he made just under $180 million in career money, and he never won a Super Bowl. So what are you saying right now with your own premise? He's kind of backing himself into a corner. I do believe that, loose lips sink ships, and sometimes there are some Freudian slips. That was a bar, but The reason why I say that is because of him having Brandon Ayuk on his Brandon Ayuk as one of the people that he trains in. Yes, you do talk about the overall attitude, and he knows politics. And we do remember that TJ Houshmandzadeh was giving Brandon Ayuk advice not to play with Brock Purdy. He could play somewhere else when he was in his contract negotiation. So this is just more of what we already know, but just coming through a social media form.
Yeah, I'm going to start off by saying being a good athlete means you're very athletic. Doesn't necessarily mean that your takes are intelligent or smart. Not that he's not an intelligent person. I don't know him well enough to say that, but I think a lot of times, fans, people weigh heavy on what former athletes say, but what former athletes say is not always correct. Now, I think when he went on talking about this, he was talking about I wouldn't have paid him more than $47 million, I believe is what he said. I said $49 million. That's what I said all offseason. So me and him aren't that far off there. But when the details come out about Brock Purdy's contract, and if you look at it as a 6-year, because essentially it is, I know that's kind of like debatable subject, but if you look at it on a 6-year basis, it is what, $46 million roughly. So I think also the other thing that I see from a lot of old head athletes, former athletes, is they're a little envious, jealous of the way these young guys are getting paid now. I think that's part of it, right? Yeah. Like a lot of these guys are getting paid way more than these old heads got paid. And I think that's part of the perspective, part of the bias when they make comments like this. As far as like Brandon Ayuk's concerned, it could definitely be his perspective as well. It wouldn't surprise me if it was, just because of some of the actions that Brandon Ayuk took and some of the things he did say, even though he didn't say that much. But, again, we don't know that that's his opinion just because TJ said it.
Yeah, I do find it interesting, though, because, like, when Purdy got his extension, got a lot of, teammates reach out and post things on social media. Congratulations, like Lenore did. Debo did. And he isn't even on the Niners anymore. You know who didn't? You know what Ayuk wrote that day? Thinking about buying a new car.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, man. Something about Brandon, I don't know. He really took a real turn. He doesn't seem that sold out to be on this team anymore. I mean, he made it real clear that he was open to being on the Steelers or the Commanders or wherever. And I don't know that you can like take that back. So, but I guess that's sort of secondary to like, is he actually overpaid? You could argue like, nah, man, this is the market. It is what it is. And if you wanted to give him an extension, this is what it is. My only question is like, why did the Niners feel, why is it the prevailing wisdom that if a quarterback wants an extension, you have to give it to him? Like, what if they just said, no extension? You're still our quarterback. You're still under contract. You're still our starter, man. But we'll have this conversation next year because you just went 6 games and do 20 touchdown passes. Like, we don't give extensions. We don't reward performances like that. And just because you're eligible for an extension doesn't mean that we're going to give it to you now. What was he going to do? Hold out? Not play football? I don't understand why that was the only option. I guess that's my question.
I don't think it was the only option. The way the deal rolled out almost kind of says that it's the antithesis of the only option. I think they weighed many options, and you see them in the deal. Brock gets his money up front. He also has a no trade clause. The Niners get low hits on their on the salary cap right away. I believe that this was more of a conversation, and this is something that we hearken to later when he wasn't getting paid on. What was the attitude, right? Especially when we heard about Brock getting the $60 million, right? Where there were overtures from Brock's side that he reportedly wanted that type of money, and we were asking, like, man, is Brock going to be that tone deaf to really hamstring the Niners just because the market says he can? Or are they going to really have a conversation and say, look, this is how we came into the deal. You helped us out, but we also elevated your persona and we developed you. Let's meet in the middle. And I think they did.
Yeah, I was just going to say a couple of things that you talked about. My opinion of Brandon Ayuk definitely shifted during his contract negotiation that whole offseason. He was one of my favorite players on the team. I don't like the way he handled his business during that offseason. So my opinion of him has changed quite a bit since then. And then when you look at the cap hits, Brock Purdy's cap hits by season, 2025, 9 million, 2026, 24 million, 2027, 30 million. And then you think about what he's made so far, and then they have the option to get out of it. Like, I was not really for giving Brock a contract because I thought it was going to be some crazy, like, set the market, huge cap hit thing. They did this contract so beautifully. Like, I think it's just a dumb argument on TJ's part right now, to be real.
All right, fair enough. Sorry, TJ, you didn't get a lot of support on this one. How about this though? So I looked up some numbers. Brock Purdy's 2024 in terms of his stats: yards per attempt, completion percentage, touchdowns, interceptions, touchdown passes, interceptions, almost identical to Jimmy Garoppolo in 2021. Different teams, same system. Brock's better than Jimmy. Full stop. How much though? That's what I want to know. How much better is Brock than Jimmy, and how would you quantify it? Where would you point to the differences?
I can go if anybody.
Go ahead, Coach.
I'll go. So look, for me, it's night and day. It is not even close. And what I did was, when you put these topics out, Grant, I just went back and watched some old Jimmy Garoppolo highlights in some old games, just like a quarter or two. And the offense has revolutionized with Brock Purdy. First of all, we actually get a quarterback who can be relatively healthy and not get hurt as much as Jimmy did. He got hurt all the time, okay? Number one. Number two, we get a quarterback that can actually process the entire field. There was a time where Jimmy literally only stuck to one side of the hot read, and that was all you got. If it wasn't there, then it was over. Which would mean that, which brings me to my third point, which is it was over because Jimmy had no athleticism. Brock is far more athletic than Jimmy ever was. On top of the fact that Brock's process is way faster, and we actually throw the ball down the field. I remember there was a time where throwing the ball down the field with Jimmy Garoppolo was like maybe once or twice a game, at best. So I know that we hark on Brock a lot because of what we want in the standard, but as far as him compared to Jimmy, it's a huge delta. They're not even close.
I gotta say, Jimmy is actually better at Brock in a lot of things. Better smile, better hair, more riz, right? Like more riz, as the kids say.
Far more riz.
More entertaining press conferences. That part is true. There is one thing, though, for real. Like, I think Jimmy is actually better at, and I think Brock's better at everything else. The one thing I think Jimmy was better at than Brock is if it was a pass play and that first read was open on a quick pass, I think he got it out quickly. He got it out accurately, on time, on target. Jimmy was really good at that. Besides that, Brock is better than Jimmy in every single way, in my opinion. I think he's a better runner. He's a better on your second, third, fourth reads. He's better in that way. He's a better leader, a better attitude, harder worker. So I think Brock's better than Jimmy by a landslide. And I think, real quick, yeah. The stats that you put out, today, I was thinking about it, is that was Brock's worst year versus Jimmy's best year. So that's Brock's floor so far is Jimmy's.
That wasn't Jimmy's best year. 2019 was Jimmy's best year, or 2017 was Jimmy's best year. That was just a Jimmy year.
All right.
I'm defending Jimmy Garoppolo now. I've just become Jimmy Garoppolo.
I see you geared up. That's why.
Yeah, I love Jimmy. I've always loved Jimmy. Never got enough credit.
He snapped back hard. That wasn't Jimmy's best year.
That was not Jimmy's best year.
I see him loaded up on his laptop right now, looking for his angle.
I think, listen, I remember when this fan base thought the same things they think about Brock, they thought about Jimmy once upon a time. I mean, that's just being real. I remember fighting tooth and nail with this fan base. Like, Jimmy is not that good, guys. Jimmy's not that good. Yeah, but the numbers, the EPA,
2 NFC championships, Jesse,
the rating, the NFC championship, the Super Bowl, the this, the that. The team loves him. Listen to what they say in interviews.
All of this win, Jesse. Listen to what Eric Armstead said about him, Jesse.
So I remember all of that, and I like Brock more from the simple fact that I know he genuinely cares about playing football more than Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo liked to be a celebrity. Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't answering his phone in the offseason. I don't know that Jimmy Garoppolo ever took an offseason and genuinely tried to get better. I know that if Brock fails in this league, it's never going to be because he didn't try. I know that he's going to give it his all to reach his peak. And Jimmy, I couldn't trust that he would do that. So I like the temperament of Brock Purdy. I like the short area quickness of Brock Purdy. But to act as if there's this massive difference, I can't say that, because I can't unsee the 5 games of Jimmy Garoppolo with CMC. And I can't unsee last year of Brock Purdy without CMC. All I know is that Jimmy Garoppolo with CMC was by far the best player he had ever been for a 5-game stretch. He went 4 straight games without a turnover, ran off 4 straight games. The only game that they lost was to the Chiefs, but the Chiefs always beat the 49ers, and CMC was in the building for 3 days. And then Jimmy Garoppolo, a few short months later, was getting benched by the Raiders. So he went from if Jimmy Garoppolo at his best was viewed as a potential top 12 quarterback or top 10 quarterback by a lot of fans in this fan base, he was at his best with CMC. And then a few short months later, couldn't even be a starter for the Raiders. I can't unsee that. So Brock Purdy, to me, is going to have to prove that without CMC, he can be a very good quarterback. Otherwise, I don't know. I can't say that the difference is that astronomical at their peak. I can't. There's no evidence of that.
But like you guys have pointed out, like they're definitely different temperaments. They're different in terms of professionalism. They're different in terms of athleticism. What?
There are clear attributes that Brock has that Jimmy Garoppolo does not have. Like, Jimmy was not processing the entire field. Like, that is clear. All right. Jimmy was staying on one side of the field. Jimmy was a wounded animal against pressure. And on top of it, let's not mention the fact that Jimmy could not get away from pressure at all, and he had the better offensive line. Who had the better line, Jimmy or Brock?
We can say all of that, but who is better? We talk about pressure, 4th quarter numbers. Who's been better when games are close? Who was better?
Okay, let me go, because you guys are taking all my points. Hold on.
All right.
So I'm trying to start by saying what makes Brock better than Jimmy. He's definitely a better leader. He's definitely more professional. He definitely cares more. He's definitely more mobile. And I think the mobility thing is huge, because I think you got to have mobility. I think a big reason why Jimmy got hurt so much is because he was so freaking slow. So, yeah, the mobility is huge. But just in terms of like passing the ball, I don't know that there's a lot of evidence that Brock's actually that much better than Jimmy. I think Christian really improved a lot of people's numbers, like Ayuk's numbers, Brock's numbers. But in terms of passing, like, is Brock more accurate than Jimmy?
Not on the Brock's a better reader. He reads the throw better, but I think Jimmy's
okay. But they both turn the ball over about the same amount at least on the Niners in this system. And then like it's in terms of passing, like Brock's a better play action passer than Jimmy, because he gives you the bootlegs to the left and to the right. That's super valuable. Jimmy didn't even like turning his back to the defense, but drop back passing, I think I'd go with Jimmy. He's got a quicker release. He can see the field a little bit better. And then, as Jessie pointed out, close games, 4th quarter, the fact that Jimmy didn't give a fuck was one of his best qualities. It didn't matter that he played like shit for 3 quarters. He's coming back. Whereas like Brock cares so much. And I think we've seen him when one bad thing happens, the next bad thing happens. Almost like McGlinchey back in the day. There's that earnestness that isn't necessarily an asset to professional athletes. So yes, I'm taking Brock over Jimmy, but Jimmy never demanded $53 million a year. He was the highest paid player in the league at one point, but
yeah, that's just the market.
I don't think there's a big enough gap in terms of them into the way they throw the ball. Really? And that's what scares me about Brock. Yeah.
So you don't think that Jimmy layered the ball? Jimmy had touch. Like outside of Jimmy getting the ball out quick, that's the only attribute that Jimmy had with his arm.
Neither one really throw the ball down the field that much. Neither one really pushed the ball outside the numbers well. I mean,
I think that's the first thing we saw when Brock got here
is
is that the ball started going down the field. I think that's one of the first things we saw.
I mean, Brock's deep ball isn't that good. It's kind of flat. He kind of underthrows it. I mean,
true.
I mean,
but at least we threw it.
Not a big
at least
part of
we
it.
threw it.
Hold on.
Do you
Jimmy
remember the
Garoppolo-
deep ball that Jimmy Garoppolo threw to Brandon Ayuk? Do you remember that?
Jimmy Garoppolo in 2019 led the league in deep ball completion percentage.
He did.
Jimmy has a better
and then
arm.
he missed that
Look
big
at
one in the
that.
Super Bowl and got the yips.
Just
I think he kind of got scared to throw it after that.
All right, here we go. Now we in here. All right, okay, all right.
Let me do this. I think Jimmy
we all
has a
think
better
Brock
arm.
is better, but how can you say that he's like astronomically better? Like, what is
I think
the evidence?
he is.
I think he is, but what is the evidence?
From what I've seen, how I've seen them both play, bro. They're completely different players, bro.
Okay.
They are
Can I say
completely
this?
different players, but the end result in terms of passing statistics seems to be kind of similar, at least when Christian's not there. When you take Christian out of the equation, unless we think that Christian doesn't have that kind of impact. Ryan, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I think Jimmy Garoppolo has a better arm. I think he's more accurate when that first read is open. And I think that's pretty much where I end it for Jimmy as far as what he's better at. I think those two things, he's very accurate on those slant passes. First read, boom, he's going to get it out quick. And I think he has a better arm. Brock's more willing to throw deep, I think, but not as good at it. I think Jimmy, for some reason in his head, he was scared to do it. But overall, I think Brock's a much better quarterback overall.
There was a time where Jimmy threw the ball deep, we were all holding our breath. Like there was a point in his career where he was that bad.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah.
It was about 4 or 5 years in. Dave Sims, Patriot Builders of Montana, says, my dudes, I love you all. I would actually help you guys do it if you ever needed it. And that list isn't long. Good people in your guys' shows too. Does money mean Brock Purdy can throw deep or handle wet balls? Well, you kind of predicted that. I'll ask him about his wet ball handling skills. I'll phrase it that way too.
Do anything. Thanks for the clarification, because I don't need help doing it, Dave, but do anything. I appreciate you.
I don't need help doing it. All right, I got another one more Brock question for you guys. So what's interesting about this last season, it's a disaster, 6-11, but the owners turn around and give Brock an extension. So I'm guessing they didn't hold him responsible for the debacle of the season that it was. Kyle Shanahan did not get an extension. So it seems like maybe they put that at his feet if they put it at anyone's feet. So my question, do you guys see it that way? And does this extension put more pressure on Kyle to win and to perform, or does it give him more job security than he had before?
I think it's more. I think what we're on quarterback, I don't know what it's been, quarterback 6. Maybe that's too much if we're not including some backups, but I mean Trey Lance, CJ Beathard, Jimmy Garoppolo, Brock Purdy, like you've had plenty of time to find your quarterback, man. Is this guy it or not? So after paying him more than any 49er has ever been paid in the history of the 49ers, if this guy doesn't work out, at some point, there's got to be some accountability for that. And it's funny there. Brock has some outs that line up with Kyle Shanahan's contract. So I think it's more pressure.
He's a quarterback polygamist, and he's now married. So this is it for Kyle. He better make this work. And again, we talked about the whole Jimmy Brock thing. The one thing that never worked with Jimmy and Kyle, one was injuries, which sucked, but I think personality-wise, they just never meshed. You'll never get these plays suck man out of Brock Purdy in the middle of a game after throwing a pick 8. I forgot about that. But Brock Purdy's temperament is exactly what you want at that position. And Kyle Shanahan has now hitched his wagon to him. We want him here long term. We want him here longer than I'm here. All of those things. The contract is now signed. The ink is now dried. This is your marriage. You better not get divorced because it's your fault. And one thing that I've always said, and it is more clear now that Brock Purdy is signed, this fan base loves you, Kyle. But if they have to choose between you and Brock, they will not choose you.
Agree. And I think it's like the Niners didn't have to give Brock Purdy this extension. They wanted to. Now, they used some leverage against him and they protected themselves and his team friendly, but they like Brock Purdy. That's what I get from that extension. I don't know how they feel about Kyle Shanahan right now. Last year was a freaking debacle, and he did not do a good job. In fact, it was probably the worst job he's done since he became the Niners head coach. He's had some great seasons, some very good seasons, so they kept him, but they didn't give him an extension. And if the offense struggles again, maybe fans will blame Brock Purdy and his contract. Maybe TJ Houshmandzadeh and Brandon Ayuk will as well. But I just have a feeling that the owners of the freaking football team will put it at Kyle's feet and not at Brock's feet unless Brock throws 30 interceptions.
What do you think, Coach?
Oh yeah, agreed. I believe that the most pressure is on.
Did I cut you off? Did I take your turn?
Yeah, you did.
I'm
But
so sorry.
agreed. But I do believe that most of the pressure is on Kyle. I think that right now that he's married to Brock, like Jessie said, there's nowhere he can go. And really what this is that this is just going to force Kyle to actually show us what he can do as far as developing a quarterback. That's something that Kyle has really gotten away from out of all of the things that he chooses to do. Actually building a quarterback into somebody that can run his offense and actually grow is something that remains to be seen. And that's really what this contract for me signifies. It's more of a commencement. It's a commencement in profile. It's a commencement in money, status, but it's also in trust. When you pay a quarterback like we just did with Brock, you don't coach him, you consult him. You don't give him that type of money and have him running around just like Gen Pop. He gets to tell you what he wants to make him comfortable, because him being comfortable and actually moving through the offense in the right way matters more than the scheme. We finally have a shift in power where the contract signifies that, Kyle, this team is not yours anymore. This is Brock Purdy's team. Kyle, you are not the highest paid gun in here anymore. And when the tips start going down, we're going to look for support for Brock, not support for you. There's never been a time in football where the team starts falling down and everybody just wants to start figuring out, what can we do for the head coach right now? No. Brock Purdy is an asset of the San Francisco 49ers. So is Kyle. But, dude, you got to move on if you don't make this work. So, yeah, I love it because it finally brings us kind of like to the crossroads. We're almost on 10 years with this dude. We got to figure something out.
I think
one of the benefits of being a quarterback polygamist is that you always have a built-in excuse if things don't go well. Well, I don't have a quarterback. You know, I look at how good a job I did with this freaking guy. He can't do that anymore. The organization is more invested in the quarterback than they are in him, and he's good. He just went 6-9, and they gave him $53 million a year. So it's on you, dude.
Yeah,
I think Coach brings up a really good point too, in the fact that we were just talking again. We were talking about Jimmy and we were talking about Brock, but we were talking about Jimmy as a final product. Brock Purdy still has years of development in front of him, but his development is on Kyle's shoulders, because Kyle, I think there's a lot of fans can't draw the distinction between getting the best out of somebody and developing somebody. And when I look at what Kyle does, Kyle gets the best out of players, out of quarterbacks specifically. But I don't know that he necessarily develops them. Like when they leave the 49ers, are they better off because they were under the tutelage of Kyle Shanahan? Or are any of the quarterbacks that he coached better off the moment he leaves? Or are they just at their best when he's there? So to me,
Darnold?
that's getting the best out of them and going, crazy with the scheme is one thing, but actually developing their processing, their footwork, making reads, calling an offense. How are you making these players better? And I think that's the task at hand when it comes to Brock Purdy, who's only 25, 26 years old. he shouldn't be a finished product. If he is a finished product, then that's a lot of that falls on Kyle's shoulders.
I don't even think Kyle looks at his job as developing. I think he spoke on it actually about maybe it was Trey Lance about like in the summers, that's on them to go get that development.
Oh, right? But I'm glad you brought that up, Ryan. This is different because he could get away with it with Jimmy because Jimmy didn't love football. So that's all, even though that's something that we hated, that was always a trump that Kyle could use when the chips were down. When things were messed up, Kyle could always lean on Jimmy as not being that serious. Like, I don't have a guy that's really bought in, right? With Trey, he just leaned on his ineptitude. Like, yo, you don't have the reps, all right? So it's not my job to reach all the way down and bring you all the way back up. What is your excuse for not developing your quarterback that you just paid $256 million for? Like, now you're like literally a marriage constitutes like through good or worse. Like, you've got to get him ready. It's not enough for you to play this like hands-off perspective of like, oh, well, he didn't do this on the play. You know, the drop was wrong. It's like, nah, Kyle, why wasn't there are going to be beautiful questions this season when somebody asks Kyle, hey, what did you do for the game plan for Brock? Did you build a game plan for Brock today? Not the Seahawks, for Brock. So it's going to be interesting.
Guys, just to play devil's advocate, I don't know what I believe here, but are we sure that Kyle's the one who went to bat for giving Brock this extension, or was it a group effort, or was John more for it, or Jed more for it, or what are your thoughts on that?
It seems like something
know.
Go
ahead.
It seems like it came from the top. That's mine.
It feels like it. It like how, because honestly, just how intricate it was. It looks like it was like intelligently designed. Like there was a real conversation on how they want this deal to happen. And that only happens if it comes from the top.
So does that relieve this pressure on Kyle Shanahan if that's the case?
No,
not at all. Not at all.
Because
if anything, they added it.
Hey, I got one phrase for y'all. He's the real deal. When he said that shit, he pinned it to his chest. That's what the man said. The man said that Brock is the real deal. Full stop. I don't want to hear it.
Yep. And then they paid him as such. And if things don't work out, it's on him. Let's take some super chats and do some prize picks and get back to the show. Ashley Ariana says, cool shirt, Grant. What's that about? P.S. Great show, guys. Thank you, Ashley, who was just on the last show. This is my all-out mayhem shirt. I'm in Orange Theory now because I'm an athlete. I'm getting back into I'm trying to get into professional athletics. I'm working my way up there, and now I'm running. So that's what I did. Joseph Ernberg, be real. Brock and Kyle ain't winning Super Bowl. Blow it up. Okay, Joseph. Joseph then says Brock can't develop into anything else though. He a bum. Oh,
God. All right.
Okay, Joseph. Barry Kev says OTAs plus paid quarterback equals time for the thuggish ruggish come. Dun, 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 dun. Great song. Cody Bezsovic says take any quarterback's top offensive weapons. They will not play well unless you're a top tier quarterback. And even then it's tough. Brock is better than Jimmy and it ain't close. He's beat Love, Goff, Tua, Dak, and Lawrence.
Wait. Cody, like, you're kind of making sense till he's beat Love, Goff, Tua, Dak, and Lawrence. I hate when people do that. No offense, Cody, but like, this is not boxing. These guys aren't boxing. They playing football teams, man. That's the one thing that's just really everyone use.
And which one of those quarterbacks is elite? Which one of those quarterbacks is elite?
I was about to say that's not really a murderer's row.
How
we've been seeing like certain people use QBRs as like catch-all statistic. Like if you have a good QBR, you're a great quarterback. You know who had the same QBR as Brock Purdy in 2023?
Who?
Dak.
So, and then Brock beat Tom Brady his rookie year. Is he a better quarterback than Tom Brady?
Obviously.
No, because he didn't beat Tom Brady. The 49ers beat.
No, he beat Tom Brady. That's how it works, Ryan. Hater.
My bad.
Get it right.
Get it right. Stop being so personal. Ramon Gonzalez says, due to our poor O-line, Brock has a built-in excuse if he plays bad next year. And if CMC and or Trent go down, even more so. Football emoji.
Listen, all right. You pay a guy, he's got to do something. You don't get dissolved of all excuses. That's just not the way that it works.
I don't think he's getting excuses with that contract. I mean, Jimmy didn't get excuses.
He's
People
got the
just
money.
dunked on Jimmy. Yeah, you got the money, man. No more sympathy.
And again,
the sympathy comes when you're making $900K.
But it's got to go somewhere if they don't want to put it on Brock, and that's why it's going to be on Kyle. It's not going to be on Salah.
No, it's not going to be on me.
It's not going to be on me.
I ain't taking it. Grant, were you at practice today? No. Media isn't invited until Thursday, so stay tuned, Justin. Cody says, I'm talking about their contracts, not elite. Ha ha.
I'm not saying that. I'm not. What I'm saying is Brock didn't beat any quarterback. He's beat football teams.
His point is so good that the internet won't allow him to make it.
It's too high. We won't even go over the waves.
All right, let's make some prize picks. The four of us, not tonight's game because it's already underway. Tomorrow, game 5, Thunder. Timber, we'll start with the Thunder. Shea, Gilgis, Alexander, the free throw merchant. Should we just go straight to free throws? Hold on.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Shea, free throws. Where are we at?
So bad.
11 free throws made. What do you think?
More
or less. More or less. We played more or less here.
Made.
Freaking, he had 13 in the last one.
Made.
I'm gonna go less.
Yeah, I think that's a smart play here, just to be
I
safe.
think the NBA wants to keep this thing alive as much as possible. They don't want this thing to end after 5 games.
And they don't want him to be known as a free throw merchant either. It doesn't help them. What about Anthony Edwards, the guy who just didn't show up for at least the first half of that game? What do you want? How about?
He's been kind of disappointing this whole playoff run, is he not?
He has been.
Yeah.
What do you like for him?
I mean,
points.
I'm gonna go
27, more or less. Yeah, tempted to say less.
I'm gonna say less.
I am too, but it's like if he's gonna prove that he's the dude that he's been saying he is, he has to have more.
Has to do it now,
in the
right?
elimination game.
This is the game to do it.
Okay, now you just changed my mind. Jesse, okay, I'm going with more. But what about Julius Randle? He just straight up embarrassed himself on national television the other night. What do you have, 4 points? 6? I don't know. 17. 5. He had 5. Whew.
Yeah, Ryan, what do you think? Ryan's
I think
good at this.
I was pointing up. He's going more. I've just been pointing this whole time. I've just been pointing.
All right. So we got Shea, we got Ant, we got Julius. How about Chet? That's a great name. I might have to name my firstborn Chet. 15 points.
This has got to be the first Chet in the NBA since like at least the 60s or 50s. Yeah.
15. That's an easy more, right? No?
Who gives a Chet?
I like it. I'm doing more because I'm a Chet fan. Submit in the lineup. Download the app. Use promo code Cohn. Play 5, get 50 instantly. Wait a second. No. Hold on. There it is. Okay. This is a non-Brock question because it ain't Brock anymore. Brock used to be the biggest bargain on the 49ers. The biggest bargain in professional sports, perhaps. Who is the biggest bargain on the 49ers now?
Oh, I got it. I got an easy one. I think it's Dominic Puni right now.
Damn it.
I think whenever you can get a potential top tier offensive lineman on a rookie contract, that's an absolute steal. And he single-handedly has made that offensive line more than serviceable because Trent Williams alone couldn't do it by himself. He needed at least somebody else to do something. And Dominic Puni, to me, is that guy. So, and when I look at across all the rookies, I mean, he was the most consistent rookie. He did it all season long. I mean, all their big name players are paid. So to me, I think that's Dominic Puni has to be the answer. If you guys come up with another one, good luck.
I mean, that was the number one guy, man.
It's like Family. What is it? Family Feud or whatever.
Family
when you
Feud.
name.
Good
you name
answer.
things. That was the number one answer. Yeah.
But there are more
I'll give you one.
on the board.
I'll give you two. I think Jesse stole the obvious answer, being lazy.
Yeah.
Taking the easy,
of course,
taking the easy route.
Yeah.
But now that that's gone, I think you have to look at a rookie who's contributing, or a second-year guy who's contributing. So that leads me to Malik Mustafa.
I knew I was gonna go
He
Malik.
even makes less money than Pooney.
4 years, $4.7 million contract. That's roughly $1 million per year for what he's going to provide and what he has provided. I think he's going to be the second biggest bargain on the Niners.
For me, I think the biggest bargain for the Niners is Juwan Jennings.
Oh, fuck.
I was going to say there is a better answer.
Got him. I mean, for the money that we paid him, for what he's done for us, coming in as our number one receiver last year when the chips are down, third in Juwan, on top of the attitude that he brings, the blocking, just everything that he does in between the lines, Juwan Jennings is, in my opinion, even more of a bargain than Dominic Pooney. He's righted the ship in ways that we didn't even think he would be. With his development, he's actually getting better than he was when he first got here as a rookie. And right now, we know that once he hits the market, we can't afford him. So right there, even through the money, he's a bargain. Look at I love the envy. I love the look. I love this shit.
Yeah,
I fucking love this shit.
I mean, he's not like the best wide receiver, and maybe he's not a number one, but for the production he just produced last year, that was redundant. But for the production he just, man, I mean, that's worth $15-20 million a year, and you got him for $7 million just because of what the wide receiver market is. Like, he's a bargain. So I would have to go with that. But like, if I had to pick someone else, another guy who was a rookie last year, Renardo Green. I don't think people really understand how good he was at the end of the season. Like, he didn't play at first, and then he got thrown in, and he gave up a couple touchdown passes in his first couple games. And then by the end of the season, he was arguably better than Lenore. I mean, he had 12 pass breakups, and he only played 63% of the snaps. Lenore had 7, and he played 98% of the snaps. Like, Green could be the next Charvarius Ward. He could be a Pro Bowl cornerback, and he's getting paid not that much. So that's another one.
Can I say something? I see this a lot. Direct Link Sports, I'm coming at you. No, I'm not trying to single you out, make you feel bad, but Direct Link Sports says he can't cover, talking about Malik Mustafa. I want to read something real quick. Malik Mustafa was by far the NFL best coverage safety as a rookie. 407 coverage snaps, 17 targets, least in the NFL, 7 receptions allowed, least in the NFL, 49 yards allowed, the least in the NFL. I don't understand where this narrative that Malik can't cover comes from. It's not true.
What you looking at, Ryan?
What am I looking at?
Yeah, what stats?
Those are
like where?
Huh?
Like where?
Those are PFF. You can find them on PFF.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's flip it around. Who is now the most overpaid player on the 49ers? There's some guys making big bucks.
Christian McCaffrey.
He's upset.
I think it's Christian McCaffrey. The deal that he had last year had him, the year before last, had him as the highest paid running back in the league. And good on him. Over 395 touches from scrimmage, coming in as an MVP candidate, and all the good things. But we also understand that the good part of that deal was he was coming off the guaranteed money, and he was going to start actually paying us back, right? Getting lower cap hits. And he balked on the deal. Not only did he sit out and hold out and ask for more money, but he asked for more money to actually break his own record, being even more the highest paid running back in the league. He comes back and has an injury, takes his time, not trying to get back, but goes to Germany to actually diagnose the injury more. And then once we finally get him on the field, he's gone. Now, we know how running backs are once they hit a certain age. All understand that Father Time is undefeated. So you have to say that even packaging him, right? Where you say, all right, well, we're going to preserve what Christian can do. That would be awesome, but not for the money. For the money, he's supposed to be a bell cow back that's supposed to lead the offense and get the ball damn near 60% of the snaps on offense. But we can't even do that now because we don't know what he's going to be like health-wise is on his age and for the price tag. I think he's overpaid.
Deebo Samuel's making $34 million to not be on this team. Can we count him?
There's a few guys like that.
Yatir Gross-Matos, probably. I think he's making more towards the cap than Brock Purdy this year, if I'm not mistaken. He's up there.
That's true.
I mean, first of all, when he left Carolina Panther fans celebrated the fact that he was no longer on the roster. He was their Solomon Thomas. They were so happy to get rid of him. He didn't produce for them. He came here. He really hasn't produced a lot for the 49ers outside of one game. He got hurt again. He's been injury prone. And now, at best, he's a rotational player. At best. And if there's anybody with a pulse, they might beat him out at that position. So I'll go with Yatir Gross-Matos.
You guys are just leaving the low-hanging fruit there for me.
I know you're gonna say it, but
I know where you're gonna go.
I know. I tried to stay away from him, but
I'm not scared. Look, Nick Bosa.
Ryan's turn.
The MAGA man. Go ahead.
Nick Bosa is 18th most sacks in the NFL, getting the highest paid defensive player in the NFL. How could he not be the answer? I mean, honestly, I think Nick Bosa is. Then 49ers need to figure out when they're trading him. Is it before the season or after the season? That's how I feel about Nick Bosa. I think he's highly overpaid for his production at this point. Maybe he'll have a bounce back year because he has a solid group around him, but I still think Nick Bosa is the most overpaid player on this team. Sorry, 49er fans. That's how I feel.
Okay. You guys have brought up some really good ones. Hard to argue with these. I'm just filibustering right now before I get some stats up. Okay, got my stats. I'm going to go with someone else. I'm not going to go with Purdy. I think, even though I think he is overpaid, I mean, it is kind of the market with quarterbacks, and he does play an important position. And even though I think the Niners can sort of get this production out of damn near any freaking quarterback that's not named Trey Lance, I don't think he's the most overpaid player on the team. Yes.
Can we just say that the Brock Purdy take will be beneath you? You're way better than that. I feel. That's not you.
No. I'm going to go with Brandon Ayuk here, and I think part of it is the injury. But just look at they gave him $39 million last year for 25 catches, no touchdowns, 19 first downs. And then this year they're not going to get that much from him either. He's going to miss half the year, and then when he comes back, he's not going to be himself. Maybe he'll be Brandon Ayuk again in 2026. Will he be on the team in 2026, or will they just say sunk cost $49 million? We tried. We like Brandon. We like Juwan Jennings. We like Ricky Pearsall. You don't seem like you're even engaged anymore. You weren't even good before you got hurt. They could end up giving him $50 million to do a whole bunch of nothing for 2 years, and that's rough. Say whatever you want about Brock or Bosa. They give you something. Brandon gave them a bunch of nothing last year and bought 3 cars and maybe that's neither here nor there, but the whole vibe around him was do you want to be here? Do you care? And I don't think you asked those questions about the other players in the team. So I don't know.
I agree.
Yeah.
Brandon.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think that's probably the right answer, actually. Bosa being second, I would say.
Yeah, with CMC coming in at a close third. Sorry.
I
he's
agree.
overpaid.
What you said about him. The only reason I didn't go CMC is because running back, he's still only getting paid half of what Ayuk's getting paid, but he might be washed.
Yeah.
No one wants to acknowledge that. He took his time coming back and then averaged 4 yards a carry, broke 5 tackles in 4 games. He might have been worse than Deebo last year, just in terms of seriously.
Yeah. And I understand that he's blood and guts, you know what I mean? But, he's overpaid. The stunt that he pulled with holding out, and you know what's annoying about the CMC contract is that they tried to cover it to preserve his persona. Christian held out. He held out last offseason.
He did not go to OTAs. and the Niners freaked out and gave him an extension, I think, before minicamp started.
Yeah, walked it right into his wedding as a wedding gift. Like, so like that needs the he's not the only one. Exactly. Like, I know we all were on like Trent Gate and Brandon Ayuk Gate, but CMC, they got him handled right away. And he held out.
Where you guys think Jessie went?
I think he's having technical issues. I know that was something that we had going on.
Internet was bad.
Yeah.
Oh. I didn't think that Ryan's internet would rally and outlast Jessie's, but here we are.
Oh,
my internet bad today? Is my internet bad?
It had
today?
moments, but it's great right now.
It's rebounded nicely.
It's phenomenal.
You know what? I turned
the way Niner fans hope that Christian McCaffrey and Brock Purdy rebound this season.
The bounce back is real with your connection, my friend.
I
gotta be honest.
The Wi-Fi off my phone. That was my bad, guys.
Meanwhile, Jessie has completely disappeared the way Christian McCaffrey might, the way Trent did last year. I don't know.
I got faith in my guy. He's going to come back before the show ends.
I control that. Thank you very much, everyone. No, here he is. You're right. You're right.
There he is.
You're making Ryan look good over here, man.
I know. I just leave. It's just whatever, dude. I'm out of here.
Whatever, dude. Yeah. Hold on. Dave Sims says, Ryan, get your internet at Temu. Garbage, bro. What about Jessie?
Yeah, what about Jessie? His got out, Dave. And you know what? You're no longer sponsoring my show.
You're out.
Timu was
no
overpriced
more
for me.
Patriot Builders of Montana are officially on their own. Sorry. Good luck.
Yes, I upgraded my
popsicle
popsicle stick Wi-Fi.
Next week, it's back on Ryan's show.
Yeah.
Channel?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, this show has just been such a great success. You're welcome, everyone, for doing it. And we're going to keep doing it because the world needs it. The four of us together. That's the show. Thanks for watching.
Like Power Rangers.